As I was prepping for my message today, I was trying to look for like the most ferocious picture that showed a giraffe and a zebra and a monkey and a lion, and this is the best I could do. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of a story, okay? So bear with me, and keep this in mind that these are supposed to be ferocious animals, right? Okay. So once upon a time in a far-off land, there lived a group of animals. They were all different kinds of species, but they lived together in harmony. The lion, of course, was the king of the jungle, and all the other animals respected him. And the giraffe was tall and graceful. The monkey was quick and clever, and the zebra was striped and strong. Each animal had its own unique qualities that made it special. Now, one day, a group of hunters came into the jungle looking for a trophy to take back to their village. They saw the lion and decided he'd be the perfect candidate and worthy of adding to their collection. Now, the other animals were horrified. They knew without their king, the jungle would be in chaos. So the giraffe, the monkey, and the zebra knew they had to act fast, so they decided to work together to save the lion. Now, the monkey, quick and clever, climbed up into the trees and scouted out the area, and he kept watch over the land. And when the hunters came, he swung swiftly from branch to branch, hurling whatever he could at the hunters. Now, the hunters were confused and scared. They were bruised, so they ran off in search of the lion. So as the hunters were running off, the monkey let out a few monkey sounds, which I'm not going to do for you, to let the giraffe know what was coming. The giraffe stood guard and watched for the hunters, and as they approached, the giraffe started letting out a mating call. I'm not going to do that either. And he slowly, with big eyes, started walking toward the hunters. Now, the hunters were well versed in the different mating calls of different animals, so they looked at each other with big eyes and said, "Oh, no." And they took off in a big rush and got out of there as quickly as possible, and the giraffe took off chasing after them. Now, the hunters, dazed and confused from their experience thus far, could not figure out where they were. They had lost the trail. And in the process of running away from the giraffe and the crazed monkey, they dropped their guns. They found themselves in a very precarious situation. Now, Mr. Zebra, striped and strong, knew it was his time to shine. He sensed the hunter's fear and anxiety, and he waited for the opportune moment to strike. Now, a zebra's bark or yip, it's nothing to get frightened over, but when it's starting to get dark and your mind starts to wander, it could be pretty terrifying. The hunters are going, what could that be? Is that the monkey playing around? Is it a parrot mimicking? Is it a giraffe? Like, what is going on? We got to stay away from that giraffe. We know things are a little crazy with him right now. They were no longer concerned about their trophy. The hunters just wanted to find their way back home. And just as our last light was peeking over the canopy, the hunters finally came across the trail. And they breathed a sigh of relief and let out a nervous laugh. But Mr. Zebra, waiting for this opportune moment, came running full force and jumped at them and started hitting them with his what do you call this? Hooves. Yeah, hooves. He started swinging his legs at him, reared his hind legs, kicked them right in the rear, and sent them sailing in the air. Perplexed, confused, and a bit embarrassed, the hunters ran off, beaten, bruised, never to return to the jungle. Together, the monkey, giraffe, and zebra were able to save the lion, and the animals realized that even though they were all different, they were stronger when they worked together. And from that day on, the animals of the jungle made a promise to each other. They promised to always work together and support each other no matter what. They knew that their diversity was what made them special, and they were proud of it. And the jungle remained a place of peace and harmony thanks to the unity of its diverse inhabitants. Beautiful story, right? Yeah, right? You got to give it a clap. This is a great story. So, we love to talk about unity and harmony and all things blissful, but diversity is something we don't always talk about. It's kind of left on the back burner, especially in the Christian community. It's safer to talk about unity if it looks like us, if it talks like us, if it votes like us, if it lives in communities like we live in, if it shares the same hobbies or interests, and so on. But where we experience true community and growth and an expansion of inclusivity is when we open up and allow space for others to enter into our lives that don't necessarily check all the boxes. Instead of building barriers or walls or fences, we ought to be building bridges and pathways and bigger tables to allow others to be a part of our lives, to build a better community. Now, diversity in community is important because it promotes inclusion of different perspectives, experiences, and backgrounds from various aspects of life. It helps individuals learn from one another, to understand different cultures, to appreciate the unique qualities that each person brings to the table. And embracing diversity leads to a greater level of value and respect for one another, which helps strengthen the community. And when a community can do that, it becomes a powerful force that can bring about incredible change in the world. The power of unity lies in the fact that it can bring together people from all different backgrounds and aspects of life with different perspectives and to create a diverse and powerful force that can achieve great things. Now, here's an example of this. I'm going to have Chris throw a picture on the screen here. Now, a couple of years ago, Aaron and I had bought this little robot thingy as a gift for our oldest son. It's a 14-in-1 solar robot kit. Now, it comes with a ton of different pieces, as you can imagine, and all these parts are essential to making this thing work. Now, it comes with this massive book of directions, as you can imagine, and to build our particular one that we had built, it took about an hour to piece it all together. And so after completing this little project, my oldest son, Graham, and I, we took it outside, and we put it directly in the sunlight, and nothing. It wasn't working. So after tinkering with it for just a little bit, we put it in the sun, nothing. So we were a bit frustrated, and if you know my oldest son, once he gets frustrated, he checks out. He's done. So me, on the other hand, I'm like, I got to see this project to completion. So I go back inside. I opened up the instruction manual again. I start pulling this thing apart. Okay, what did I do wrong? I started putting things back together. And after looking at the instruction manual and seeing all these different pieces, these intricate little pieces that are so important and vital to make this thing work, I finally realized it was one tiny little piece that kept the whole thing from working. So I put this thing back together, and I call Grandma, I'm like, hey, let's go outside. I think I finished this thing. Set it out in the sun. And as soon as that sunlight hit that solar panel, that thing took off. I wish I would have brought it this morning. I forgot to bring it, but it still works. It's awesome. But there's a valuable lesson in this little thing that we can learn from. As members of the body of Christ, each person, every single person is valuable. Each person matters. And each person brings a unique gift to the table that makes the church operate the way it ought to. In 1 Corinthians 12, the Apostle Paul talks about this a little bit, and starting in verse 12, and I'm going to be reading from the New Living Translation, he says this: the human body has many parts, but the many parts make up one whole body. So it is with the body of Christ. And now jumping down to verse 14, he continues, yes, the body has many different parts, not just one part. If the foot says, I'm not a part of the body because I'm not a hand, does that make it any less part of the body? And if the ear says, I'm not part of the body because I'm not an eye, would that make it any less part of the body? Or if the whole body were an eye, how could you hear? Or how would you hear? Or if your whole body were an ear, how would you smell anything? And continuing down to the verse 21, it says, but our bodies have many parts, and God has put each part just where he wants it. How strange a body would be if it only had one part. Yes, there are many parts, but only one body. The eye can never say to the hand, I don't need you. The head can't say to the feet, I don't need you. And lastly, in verse 27, he says, all of you, and this is so important, I want you to hear this, all of you together are Christ's body, and each of you is a part of it. Now, over the years, I've had dozens upon dozens of opportunities to work with different groups of people, different ministers, different ministries, and in particular, I've co-led or led a handful of different mission trips. And usually, on these particular trips, I'm going to use last year as an example. we kind of get to know each other just a little bit before the trip. We have a group texting thing that we do. So we kind of get to know each other's personalities, but we really don't truly know each other until we're in the trenches serving alongside one another. And it's very interesting, to say the least. When you get a group of 20 plus teenagers and 7 plus adults together, and you're given a task to serve in the church and do like a VBS program, you begin to see, okay, that person's a teacher. That person works with kids. I can tell that already. That person's really excited about music. Yes, they like to dance. We're going to put them in charge of all the motions and stuff. Okay, that person, let's keep them away from kids. They're weird. All right. They're sporty, but yeah, they don't know how to have a conversation with anybody. So, but it's very interesting. You see the different strengths and you see the different weaknesses, but by the end of the week, you start to realize, man, that person might not be able to talk to kids, but they're super athletic. In that avenue of playing sports with these kids, it opens up a window for them to have a conversation, or at least for them to point them to a person that can have that conversation. The people that are gifted at teaching, it's incredible to see what they can do. Taking a story like that with a little giraffe, monkey, zebra, and lion, it's incredible what they can do with that. It's incredible when you have people that are really gifted at speaking or gifted at playing music. It's so neat to see that come together because at the beginning of the week, you don't realize what everyone can do. But by the end of the week, you're like, oh man, that person right there, they couldn't play sports. For some reason, that wasn't their gift. They weren't great athletically, but they pulled a kid off to the side and they spoke with them. They were able to touch their heart. They were able to open themselves up in a way that I couldn't. You start to see that play out in these small and incremental ways. And that I think that plays out large on a bigger scale with the church. We have so many people come together on a Sunday morning just like this. We have so many people coming from different walks of life, from different regions of the country that have found themselves here in this place. And every single person matters. And every single person brings something to the table, a unique gift and quality. I think that's something beautiful because that's what makes the church work. And as a church, I think it's important that we remember these two things. That one, each of us brings that unique gift to the table, and that gift is used to strengthen the entire group. And number two, we can't get stuck on the idea of that we want to be something else, right? I can't say to myself, I want to do what Ronnie does. I want to be just like Ronnie. Ronnie is Ronnie. I'm me. Ronnie has his own unique gifts and sets and talents that, oh my goodness, how incredible. Yeah, that's awesome. I bring something else to the table. And I have to realize that's what I'm good at. I'm good at what I do. He's good at what he does. And the same goes for all of you too. We can't get stuck on the idea of wanting and hoping to be something we're not because we are who we are for a reason. And we bring the gifts and talents to the table for a reason. And we should celebrate that uniqueness because that's what brings it all together. Just like that little robot, every piece matters and is important. And the body of Christ is strengthened when you choose to utilize your giftedness the way it was intended. And when all pieces are working together, incredible and transformational things can happen.